How are you today?
I am just so great. And I am very excited. Like I said, just meeting you in person and just listening to some of your earlier podcasts and why you do what you do and how you do what you do, the purpose, the intention. And I'm like, I met my long lost brother.
Oh,
I
that's
just
lovely. Thank you.
so agree with the kindness is the first word coming to mind.
Hmm.
Um, and doing something because you enjoy it and you know in your heart it's a good thing and with no expectations because of course for anyone sharing messages and having very candid conversations online, we don't know how people are going to be affected by that. And it's critical to keep going. And I actually saw a post this morning on that very thing is that um, we need to just keep going because we don't know the fruits of our labor. And
True.
that's okay. And and I sent it to a friend and she responded with, just enjoying the process is what it's about. And then if there's fruit to bear, whether we know it or not, it we just have to have the faith that something is going to come out of it,
Yeah.
eh, which is one of the many reasons I did get into coaching, was just that. If one person feels better because of our conversation, then it was worth every penny, every hour spent, every bit of energy. It was just worth it. Just one person, because then we don't know what that one person is going to venture off and do. So you asked me how I was,
Good.
and that's how I
Well,
am.
well,
Yeah.
let's let you tell us who you are and what you do and how did you come to do this. I think that's
Hmm.
generally how I start.
Yeah.
Um, and because I'm always curious, because probably two-thirds of the people that I meet here, this
Hmm.
is my first conversation with them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, so
Yeah. Yeah.
as it
And
is
and
for
the
us.
yes. And the bit where you go get your coffee, that's going to be cut out, is it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay. I kind
yeah,
of thought so.
I'll cut that out. But when we
For
start
sure.
talking, that we'll start. I mean, I'm not really that formal about that. So when we
Yeah.
start talking is when we start talking. And at some point, I say,
Yeah.
"Well, tell us who you are," so that
Yeah.
And I had one I did the other day where we never.
Mm,
I forgot to ask the person to give her, tell us their name. So I had to put
mm.
a little thing at
Yeah.
what do they call it, a chyron there of, I said, welcome, to the person
Of
who,
course. Yeah. And
but
names, I have to rename myself. I always forget this. And my tech gal that does my podcast, she gives it to me all the time and says, put capitals. Okay, there we go. Now I can relax.
okay. So,
Yeah,
uh, Gail, tell me about who you are and what you do. And it's Gail McDonald, right?
it is MC. I have to say that all the time because, of course, there's MECs, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right. Is it,
exactly. Mhm.
um, what is the distinction between MAC and MC? Is it just
That's a great
pattern
question.
of behavior? I mean, is it just something that's evolved over time, or is there some
Yeah.
genealogical meaning to that?
Apparently there is. Now, I'm not, of course, that's my married name. And one of the criteria when I was choosing to get married to someone was that they had to have a name that's easy to spell. So I married someone of Irish descent. However, my maiden name, I have a background of all Eastern European.
Oh,
So McDonald is definitely not in alignment with the Eastern European names. However, what I do know from way back when, uh, and this is just part of it, I think it might be a little inaccurate, but because there were the Scottish McDonald's and the Irish McDonald's, and as little as I know about it, it was that distinction. So if you were a
ah,
Mac or a Mick, And then they were all
Ah,
fighting. And I mean, that's way, way back like that,
okay. Well, that would make sense.
Yeah, yeah, a little
I'll
bit.
I'll
So,
ask my son, who's authority on Scotland, and
oh,
maybe
excellent.
he'll know.
Yeah, do
So
tell and let me know if that's accurate or not. Yeah,
yeah, that's good.
yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
and you're a coach, right?
I am, yes.
How long have you
20
been doing that?
years. 20 years. Sorry, I answered without you
Yeah.
asking me
Oh
the
well,
question.
I'm
So,
sorry.
yeah.
I spoke over you. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Yes. So my becoming a coach was an interesting journey. I like to say it was somewhat, it happened unconsciously, but of course, there's always something running in the background. Like I have this, this belief that if you are a certain way and you really are that deep down and you have an interest in something, that at some point something will be shown to you. And then it's your choice whether you're going to take the opportunity and walk through the door. So, quick summary of my work background is that when I started working, I wasn't sure of really what I wanted to be when I grew up. And that was somewhat challenging because to get a job, and I'm talking back in the 70s, right? So I ended up in finance and it was a great job. And the jobs that I have had they've all been um, very beneficial in teaching me about myself. So it was finance and it was fitness as well at another stage of life, and then sales kind of thrown in there. And the reason for the changes is that my husband's job had us transferring across the country. So sometimes there wasn't the opportunity in a very small town to do what I was doing. So I had to get creative and make things work.
Yeah.
And it was a great opportunity to work around that. And then also work part-time and be a stay-at-home mom and work around his schedule, which was also shift work. So it really worked well. But what I found, Ed, is that no matter what role that I was in, I always had a deep curiosity about the person that I was serving, or, the person sitting in front of me for whatever reason. And I wanted to also help them to feel better about themselves, be of service in some way. And that's just what I kind of lived with and worked with until we moved back into the city and I met someone who was a life coach. And there was something in me that went, "Oh, that's fascinating. I think that's a me thing. I think I could do that." And this was the time when life coaches were there weren't many, not in Canada anyway. Maybe in the States a few more, but I just went for it. And my husband and I had a dialogue about it. And his questions, of course, were, "Well, what is that?" And I said, "I'm not really sure, but I know I will talk to people on the phone," because it was also that's all we had when I decided. There was
Mhm.
no like Zoom or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, took the information session, signed up, got training, and the deeper I got into the training, the more intrigued I was, and the dialogue that we would have in our classes and the facilitators, it just felt so right. And then I started coaching early on, and then I started facilitating, and it has brought me to do much more of what I love after 20 years. Of course, I have amazing clients and have had other opportunities that have actually brought us here today. And I started to live by this sign I saw on the door at Starbucks that said, "Say yes to what's next."
Hmm.
So as long as it aligns with the values that I've discovered that I have over the years, um, and it's respectful and purposeful and meaningful, and I know that I'm serving people somehow, then I will jump in.
Do you have an image in your mind of where you would like to see a person, say, after a few months of working with them? Do you have kind of a vision for what your care for your client leads them into a point of, okay, they're now there. This is where I
Mhm.
wanted them to be. They have confidence now, or they have begun to see what is possible for their life. These all these kinds of questions that coaches have when
Mhm.
they're meeting their client for the first time, and you look at this, and where do and you're going to come to some kind of sense of, this is where we're going to go together. And is that something is that happens with you?
Mm. That's a yes and no answer.
Okay.
Um, and what I mean by that is that as a coach, as you know, Ed, there are no biases as to or expectations of
Right.
where
Hmm.
sessions will go, how people will respond. This goes without saying that every single human on this planet is unique and so different. Our beliefs, our personalities, our appearance, it's as different as our DNA. And so that's kind of the no part. I don't have exactly an expectation, but and I tell this to my clients, my wish for you is that you arrive at a place of peace. Can
That's what
you?
I'm really looking for. That's the answer I was
Mm,
looking for.
oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. And just to be okay with not being okay. Um, and I think that's it. Like just to get to a place where you begin to accept yourself and accept the fact that yes, I will have thoughts that I'm not proud of or happy of, but that's what our minds do. We have that part of our brain that just it alerts us to danger of any kind. Something like somebody cutting you off in traffic, and then you get that thought and say, well, what a jerk. But that jerk, and I don't mean that like literally, but might they have just gotten some bad news that their child's been in an accident, or we don't know, but we make assumptions and then we
Yeah.
get kind of upset. So dealing with the thoughts that come to mind, having that conversation, that internal dialogue with your inner critic to go, calm down. You don't know that person's story. And so working with people too to help them shift their perspective that we are all less than perfect. And many people have stories and we don't know what is going on with them. So, how can I bring myself to that place where I can offer compassion even when someone appears to be not deserving of it? And that's tough because we're all me people. I want to protect myself. I want to be happy. I don't want people to yell at me. Well, sometimes they will.
What does
But
it
no, yeah. Hmm?
what
Yeah.
does it look like for someone not to be deserving of compassion?
When people are maybe angry or, they've done something and they don't appear to have any remorse.
Uh-huh.
Maybe they're sullen, maybe they're quiet, which doesn't mean that they're not, to me, it means they're even more deserving of compassion.
Right. So they're not at a place where they can receive it in the manner which can be beneficial.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
precisely.
I've dealt with a lot of people like that.
Mm. Hmm. Yes. And the beautiful part of coaching and even facilitating, because then you've got 8 to 10 people all in a room together or online together, it has been my best teacher. I've learned so many lessons from spending time with, in 20 years, probably over a few thousand people.
Are there things I'm just really curious about your experience. So this is where my questions are coming from. Are there things that you um, see see in your clients that would be considered a pattern? You know, there's a pattern emerging here between these 20 people, and they're all talking about something similar.
Hmm.
And that raises the question, well, what is the source of that pattern?
Hmm.
Why are this collection of people saying this? Or why are they having this experience?
Hmm.
And because when I first started consulting 30 years ago, the immediate thing that happened to me was I started seeing these patterns of behavior, and they were across. This is on an organizational level, but they were across this entire spectrum of organizations,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what I'm trying to understand is what is it that you see that keeps repeating itself in the lives of your clients? Maybe that's the better way to say it.
Yeah. Um, Interesting. I was wondering if you were going to ask something along those lines because it is so true. There are patterns, and I'm so fortunate to have been doing this for two
Yeah.
decades to be able to speak honestly about what I've observed. And the the biggest thing that pops out, because there are a few, but the one that does come to mind very strongly is, what will people think
Ah.
if I speak up, if I speak my mind? Um,
Ah.
what will others think of me? And
Oh,
in
well.
my mind, it's like, firstly, who cares? And I don't mean to be flippant about that. I don't mean it's a, well, I just don't care. It's not about that. But people forget about what you've done because they're going home to bills, maybe a sick parent, screaming kids. They don't care what you said at a meeting where it sounded dumb to you or whatever it is. And are relentless in self deprecation.
Yes, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find is what that really is an expression of trauma from sometime earlier in their life, where
Yeah.
something had taken place that traumatized them, and they
Yeah.
keep reliving that moment when
Yeah.
they're put in a position where I'm afraid to speak up.
Yes. Yes. And interestingly, Ed, firstly, I picture us, we're in a canoe floating down a river having this conversation. We're just flowing along here because I was going to mention as well that many people, even though I'm not a therapist and I would never ask about, well, what happened in your childhood, because that's not where coaches typically go.
Right?
But so many people say, and it's like this light bulb goes off. They're like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, this happened in my childhood.
Yeah.
My mom was like this. I mean, how can we not bring forward these things because we lived with them for so long until we either left home, and that's another pattern, is people that just, the light bulb goes off after they've been talking and they go, oh yeah, I get this. And even with the work I've done on myself and what I do know about myself, what I don't know about myself is yet to be discovered, is that sometimes I'll do something and I'll go, oh my goodness, I'm turning into my mother, right? And how do you get away from that? And that in itself is a beautiful thing because it's created who we are. And yet, if it's not serving, then is it time to reflect and change and be okay with what you've inherited from your parents, but change it should it be necessary? And um, I'd like to take a moment and share a short story with you
Sure.
and
Please.
the audience. Like that, it just is such a sweet story, and it drives this point home. many years ago, I think Reader's Digest is still around. And I used to really enjoy the column, Life's Like That. So people would write in stories about what happened. And they were really meaningful stories. And this one in particular was about this young lady who had moved out from her parents' home. She got her own apartment. She was so excited. And she was having them over for turkey dinner. And her mom came into the kitchen and saw the turkey thawing in the sink, and there was a dish rack, like the dish drainers. She had it on the turkey upside down. And the mom asked her why she had that dish rack on the turkey. And the reply from her daughter was, because that's what grandma did. Okay, fair enough. And the mom said, honey, that's because grandma had a cat. This young girl didn't have a cat. But because she saw her grandmother do it, because the cat would poke the turkey, she would put the dish drainer on top. So now the daughter's putting the dish drainer on top of the turkey, but doesn't have a cat, but never questioned why she was doing it. It was just because her grandmother did it. So very simple story, but to me, it illustrates how we do things without even thinking about it. Because that's what we know. That's what our parents modeled for us. They may not have even told us what to do. They just did it. And we went, okay, well, my parents, I love them. They must be right. And away we go.
I call that generational memory. And
Oh, I love that.
and and it can go back many generations, not just
Mm-hmm.
one or two.
Mm-hmm.
And those stories get passed along from generation to generation, and they
Mm-hmm.
get changed from generation to generation to the point where uh, the young woman today has a sense of what is right and wrong because of what has been told to her when, and it has this sense of absoluteness to it
Mm-hmm.
when when in reality it wasn't that absolute. But it
Mm-hmm.
gets presented in a way like this is, and I came to see this because of my grandmother, and who told me when I was 12 that you may do anything you want, but do not bring shame to the family name.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said that I've used that story a lot because um, my grandmother matters to me significantly, and
Mm-hmm.
her her advice there has governed how I live.
Mm-hmm.
I keep changing. Keep starting new things, but I've had a number of people say to me, "Oh my, that's such a harsh thing for her to say to you." I said, "No, it isn't. It was liberating. It was but you see,
Mm-hmm.
how we interpret those things from the past has a
Mm-hmm.
lot to do with how we will carry forth the things that matter to us today and pass along to the next generation."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You said something in there that popped for me, and it's that word liberation
Yeah.
and also perspective.
Hmm.
Because sometimes we do see children grow up in the same family, and we get to know them as adults, and they're so very different
Hmm.
in spite of, or irregardless of what their parents modeled. And this still really is mind-blowing to me. My in-laws, who have long since passed, they had 18 children. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Wow.
what most, yeah, that's what I did when my husband told me before we got married. I'm like, whoa, how do I get involved in this? So, and then the reason I'm sharing that is because it's so fascinating to me now that I can remember their names and the names of their children and spouses, and I'm so proud of myself for that. But to get to know them at a deeper level, it's like I can see the family values there,
Yeah.
and yet they are. as much as they share those and that they are the same there, they are all so different. And they grew up with the same parents. Now, granted, this was over a 30-year period that all these kids were born. So different generations learn different things. And, probably by the last one, it's just like, okay, just do whatever you want. I'm tired of disciplining. You're the last one, so just do what you want. Um, but there is an is and an isness or an isn't-ness to it. It it
Yes.
it is and it's not at the
Right.
same time. If
Yes.
that's a bit upside down, but you also said something about absolutes, and I often wonder because this brain just continually is wondering about things.
Good.
Is if well, some days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah,
good.
truth
Definitely
be
good.
told, I went to bed last night thinking about this interview and how much we were going to enjoy the space and what might we talk about and all of that, right? Um, and with absolutes, I've wondered, like, is there anything or what is absolute in life? And sometimes when I hear people labeling themselves, it's like, and not even in coaching, but it's like, oh, I was so stupid, or I was really smart, or but to what degree? Like, is it absolute? And does it happen that you're this or you're that or you're something in between? And actually, one podcast of yours I was listening to, you were talking about leading and following. And we hear that so often. It's like, oh, that person's a real leader, and but this one's a follower. And the labels that we have, like, we're not this or that all the time. There's waves in between. And I thought about, and I was wanting to ask you this because it just really intrigued me. Does um does following at the appropriate time when necessary to the benefit of the team, um, does that contribute to being a good leader? Is to
Mhm.
be able to sometimes follow.
Absolutely. Because if as a leader you only think of yourself as leading and never following, then you
Hmm.
you lose touch with the people that you're leading. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Robert Greenleaf, who wrote the book on servant leadership back in the 60s, he had a
Mm,
phrase for this. He talked about, in a leadership context, you're in a set of relationships, and particularly as a team, the leader is the person who is the first among equals. And I,
mm,
I like that phrase, first among
mm,
equals. So if everybody's equal on the team, but
mhm,
someone has the knowledge or the expertise or the
mhm,
responsibility to take the lead, okay, we need to go this way because this is what I've been working on. This is my project. I need you all to go with me here, that sort of thing. And I think it's very difficult for people who are in organizational leadership to be able to do that. But the
mhm,
but the best leaders are the ones who actually do that, who know how to listen and say, I think that's a really good idea. Let's go do that. Who
mhm,
validates the follower who is actually now taking the role of leader. Is it,
mhm,
so yeah, I think and that's when it's at its best.
mhm, mhm. I really agree with that. And I also think about leaders who are developing leaders.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes the question is, well, how do I do that effectively? And I'm thinking of Mel Robbins' book, Let Them. Let
Uh-huh.
them let them practice while they're under
Right. Right.
your care and your wing, and allow them to make mistakes, allow them to fail effectively.
So do you see your clients as leaders or potential leaders? And I'm not talking about
Mhm.
institutional leaders, but more like
Yeah.
leadership in a society or in a community or that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Again, it's hard to say a yes or a no, because there's such diversity that I have among my clients, um, which I absolutely love. And there are some that it really, some of it is personality. Um, some of it is emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
which is absolutely critical to identify within self. Um, not that I don't mean to imply that assessments are the golden rule and it's hard and fast and you're this or you're that, but just to gain some information into how you are doing with managing emotions and being able to manage, or excuse me, be able to identify the
Yeah.
emotional temperature of the people that you're interacting with. And um, of course, because as we said earlier, we are all very, very different, that our personalities, our behaviors, our beliefs, our demonstration of behaviors are going to be very different. But in my opinion, what is most important is being open to the possibility of doing something different, because change is scary to most people. It's just like, well, I can't do this in the way that it needs to be done, or because I am this way. And when I hear that, I think of the book, um, 17 Lies and the Truths That Will Set You Free.
Uh-huh.
It's written many years ago as well. And mm, Stephen Chandler, maybe the author. I'm not sure about the Stephen part, but I'm pretty sure it's Chandler. And in that particular chapter, he talks about the myth of that. It's like, well, this is the way I am and I can't change, or I can't do things differently. But we all can. We just need to make a choice. So,
My
mm-hmm,
my definition of
mm-hmm,
leadership is a little awkward, but it's still
mm-hmm,
a definition. I
mm-hmm,
don't see it as a role or a title.
mm-hmm.
I see that all leadership begins with
Yeah.
personal initiative
Mm-hmm,
to create impact that makes a difference that matters,
mm-hmm,
which means that everyone in an organization, everyone in a family,
mm-hmm.
every one of your clients, everyone in a
Yeah.
community can take personal initiative to create impact that makes a difference that matters. And
Mm-hmm,
that, and when they do that, they become a person of impact. And when they
mm-hmm,
become a person of impact, that's what it means to lead.
mm-hmm,
So, and when I say that, um, I have no expectation that they need to become different than they already are. Whatever
mm-hmm,
baggage they carry with them, that's just part of who they are. And they
mm-hmm,
can take that initiative knowing full well they got this weight on their shoulders, but
mm-hmm,
this thing they want to do, this thing they want to accomplish becomes more important than their feelings of insecurity or their feelings of fear. And
mm-hmm,
and so that's why I frame it that way because um, you know I would ask when I was early on in doing leadership work, I would ask people, so do you think you're a leader? And they would go, oh no, don't tell me, don't say that to me.
mm-hmm,
I said, why? He says, well, leaders have a target on their back and they're always under
mm-hmm,
scrutiny and they can never please anyone.
mm-hmm,
Okay. So what if a leader is a person who takes personal initiative to create impact that makes a difference that matters?
mm.
Do you ever do that? And they would say, oh yeah, I do that all the time. I said, well, then you're a leader. It says, okay, I'm a leader, but don't call me that. That's I had that
Yeah.
conversation a lot. So I
Yeah.
stepped back asking that. But you see, I think that becomes a pathway to resolving some of these emotional barriers or burdens that
Mm-hmm,
people have about themselves.
mm-hmm. Perception.
Perception changes the
Mm-hmm,
perception of who they are.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And all you have to say is, well, have you ever walked across the street to the older woman out over there and just said hello and said, "Hey, could we have a cup of coffee or a glass of tea or something?" Have you ever done that with anyone in your neighborhood? And yeah, I do that all the time. I said, well, that's what leadership is. You're making a difference in someone's life, and it's
Mm-hmm.
tangible and it's real, and that's what,
Mm-hmm.
all it takes to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And if once you start that, then all you have to do is just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all those other things which have held you back just kind of float off into the air, and you
Mm-hmm.
forget that you ever had those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I've spoken to some people who are in actual positions of leadership, and they have made some significant changes in their style of leadership and commented that I initially thought that being a leader, if I showed kindness or vulnerability as a leader, then that would mean that I'm not a strong leader. So there's that, again, it's that meaning of, what does it mean about being a leader? And you described it beautifully. But when we hear that word leader, our mind goes through the Rolodex and looks for the easiest definition that fits.
Well, this is what I say to people. Get rid of all your adjectives and adverbs.
Mm, right.
They're an impediment to who you
Mm-hmm.
are. You're
Mm-hmm.
not a great leader, you're just a leader. You're not a bad leader, you're just a leader.
Yeah.
Um, and you know where I learned that? I learned it in writing. My first writing gig, I had 500 words, and I had to write something of value and what I found was I had all these extra words in there that didn't
Mm.
matter. And
Mm-hmm.
that I thought the a word like strong would be qualifying something, but what it did was it obscured it. And so there's
Mm.
not strong leaders. There's either leadership or there's no leadership. And
Mm-hmm.
say it's strong leadership, that just adds more questions. Well, what does that mean? I don't know what that
Mm-hmm.
means. Um,
Yeah.
and and you could have three people say, "Well, yeah, you are a strong leader," and a fourth person say, "Well, no, you're not really that strong," because they're comparing it to somebody else that is not a part of that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another sore thumb as well is comparitis. I just made that word up. Um,
It's a
but
good word. It's a good word.
exactly. And we will always have be less than, more than, always throughout our lives. We're all in different places. Well, wow, why does my neighbor get to drive that vehicle? Well, because they do. That's just it. Do you know if they're financed to the hilt? Do you know if they paid cash? What do you know? Absolutely nothing. So,
You- Do you
mhm,
think these um, the people that you're
mhm,
coaching who
mhm,
have this sense of I don't actually want to characterize it, but have this sense of who they are
mhm.
that is less than positive. Do you think that they have spent a lot of their life never being appreciated?
Hmm. I would say, firstly, that is, it's a tough question. Um,
Because you said something at
mhm,
the very beginning
mhm.
about what I'm doing here, which is I show appreciation, and
Yeah,
that's important to you to show
yeah,
appreciation. And
mhm,
I'm just wondering if maybe they're coming to you because
yeah,
that you were known as being this appreciative coach that
mhm,
that they are seeking out.
hmm. That's another toughie. Uh, what I have heard, and this may or may not give clarity to the question, Ed, But what I have heard from a couple of people who um, have viewed a short video and read my bio, um, and this is through an organization that I'm part of their coaching bench. So clients are given, a few coaches to choose from, etc. Um, and then I have the opportunity to work with them. And so some people have said that it was your energy and how you didn't say you had these qualifications and those qualifications and I can do this and I can do that. They said it was more about letting them know what the space would be like and how I wanted to support them. And so it was more about what they would receive from coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of that's 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 the simplicity of it. Um,
Yeah.
and I wish there was more to say about it, but that is what I have been told over the years. And just people want to be listened to, heard for what they're saying, respected, validated. They want to be in a safe place. And that's what I also message to them, but in different words. Like I really can't remember. I did it the video a while back, but just to be themselves and say what they want to that they feel they really can't say to anybody else. Or they could, but there's that danger of, what will people think? And there's the bias. And people that know us the best sometimes are the worst ones to share things with because they know us too well. They're too close to us to give us an objective um, kind of an opinion or and that's where coaching is so amazing is that as a coach, I don't know my background about anyone. So they all come to me and I'm expecting just a clean slate. Just here's where we're going to start. And I don't know what their previous habits are, so I can't compare and make a judgment on anything. And that's what they do appreciate the most. So I'm not sure if that was on point. Do I need to say more? Have I answered the question in
Well,
some way?
I would say that what you are describing would have the effect of appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
How you are in relationship with your clients
Yeah,
generates that appreciation.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they trust you um probably because you are not um thrusting your credentials at them.
Mm-hmm.
That you're
Yeah.
we're gonna meet and we're gonna talk and
Mm-hmm.
it's much more gentle. You
Yes.
seem to be a very gentle person, and people that particularly have suffered trauma or suffered heartache
Mm-hmm.
or they need someone who will be gentle with them
Mm-hmm.
and not because I'm sure there are coaches out there who are very challenging and they're gonna be like a football coach or a basketball coach and they go,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna get this settled and we're going to put you out there and you're gonna fly and you're gonna do this
Yeah.
and a lot of
Yeah.
people don't need that. They're not ready for
Mm-mm.
that.
No, they need gentle, especially if they've had some challenges. And I'd like to speak to that for a moment, if I could, about the challenging piece.
Sure. You can say
Be
whatever you want to say.
Thank you. Well, go
It's
Oilers. I'm
it's
from
your show.
Edmonton,
It's
so
your show. This is your show.
okay. Um, but there was a participant in one of my workshops years ago, and she had, I think she still was in a recovery program, and her therapist said to her, whether you're drowning in a pool or you're drowning in the ocean, you're still drowning.
Huh.
And I went, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That
That's true.
really impacted me. And this is already online. I did a show on my podcast with a dear friend, and we talked about grieving because we both had lost our sons 2 years ago. It will be like hers was spring and mine was summer. So 2 months apart, we lost our sons. And that is the most soul crushing experience a parent can ever experience.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing that can compare to what you feel when you get that phone call and your child has been in an accident. And what I found myself needing to really pay attention to, and this is where I will also give emotional intelligence a bit of a plug because I've been working on myself for a long, long time. And that doesn't mean I am perfect. It means I'm so imperfect, but it just means that I'm aware of when to let go and when to hang on, and but not with everything. So it was very, very tough. And it has taught me so much. And there were never any questions about why him? Why did this happen? If he hadn't been on that road at that time, why? And that is a waste of energy. So I made myself a promise that whatever happens in life from here on in, I am not going to ask questions to which there is no answer. Because if there's no answer, let it go. It's kind of like, what can you control and what can't you control? Also, what I learned is that I needed to be very cognizant of my level of compassion
Hmm.
because I couldn't let my experience of losing a child overshadow the compassion that I would feel for other people who had maybe been through something, but it wasn't as serious as losing a child because that is their level or their capacity to feel what they feel. And I can't judge how they're feeling.
Right.
So if they lost a job or they had to put their dog down, which that's soul crushing too, because we're dog people. Um, I just really needed to be able to regulate that and go and check in and say, they are suffering. And you cannot compare suffering in anything with anyone. And that has been such a learning for me. So um, I feel like I've been able to regulate my compassion and ensure that what the the degree or the level of compassion that I'm having for folks is relevant to the compassion that they need, even though
Uh,
um, we
are
lost our
you
son. Yeah.
are you saying that
Mm.
you're cautioning yourself
Mm-hmm.
about internalizing their pain within yourself?
Mm. Uh, Not really. And let me see if I understand the question right. So am I taking on their pain as well? Is that what you mean,
Yeah,
Anthony?
you're identifying with
Yeah.
it at not just a kind of mental level, but at
Yeah.
a deeper emotional level that where you're
Yeah.
feeling their pain,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you may even tear up or and in that kind of depth of identification. And I don't, and I'm
Yeah.
not being judgmental one way or the other. I just
Yep.
think
Of
that
course
that's
not.
one of the
Yeah.
things that we do. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's natural for us.
Yes. Yeah. And that question brings to light yet something even deeper to me is that, and have I teared up with clients? Absolutely. Um, but again, it doesn't, it's not our whole session, right?
Right.
It
Right.
just,
Right.
so do I show compassion? Do I have like authentic, true compassion for people? Yes, that's why I became a coach. Um, do I sit with them in that? Yes. Take it on in that moment? Sure. But after it's done, it's done. And I'm not certain how I even came to that, because years ago I was the type of person that would sit down and cry for, in the drugstore picking out a sympathy card or something. I just, it was like I took everything on. But I think over time it was just almost an unconscious shift where, okay, I need to do this as a coach. This is my role, but I don't need to take it with me after the call is over. Does that mean I don't feel? Not at all. When I'm with them again, I will have remembered, ask them how they're doing, that kind of thing. Like, but I don't take it on as my own. Um, and that's necessary. I've had conversations with caregivers, coaches, therapists, social workers, and that is a skill that needs to be adapted and also um, looked after. If you feel as a coach you need therapy, I see a therapist, well, more semi-regular now, but just to get things off my chest. Because if I'm not transparent with that and I'm not looking after myself, how on earth do I show up for anybody else and give them what they need, meet them where they're at?
Over the 20 years you have been doing this,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that you're still doing it really is I think, a thing to celebrate, to appreciate, because it's not easy work. This, and the fact that you're still doing it, and you have this, I can still tell this depth of feeling about it, which I think is why it continues to be something that brings you satisfaction or joy.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? I'm thinking about kind of the larger picture of things, in the world that we live in, and whether you find, and this is kind of my last question. It's one I ask everybody. So what I'm interested in is where is it that you find hope as a coach today? What is it that you kind of hold on to that says, in this world of dramatic change that's always going on and makes it difficult
Mm-hmm.
for people to know who they are, all of that, where is it
Yeah.
that you find hope for your life and your coaching and for your clients?
Mm. Wow, that's a beautiful question to begin wrapping up with. And the first word that popped into my mind, which typically is always my truth, it's like boom, it just shows up, is trust. And I know that there are certain things that I felt I never could handle, and I did, and I grew. And I have that trust in my clients, that even though we're sitting here talking about whatever they're talking about, I feel complete trust that at some point they will figure it out. Because in our conversations, seeds are planted, and your garden doesn't grow overnight. So the
Right.
seeds that are planted are then there for a year or 2 years. And I know that to be of myself with some amazing speakers I've actually seen in person, and people I've met online and learned from them, is that I may not use that information right away, but there's this little part in our minds, I believe, just really embraces this, and it shows up sometimes as needed when required. And so I just know that my clients they're intelligent, they're driven, they're curious, especially about themselves. Like, how do I change this? How do I do that? What can I do? Let's talk about it. And at some point, they will figure it out. So, and I trust at some point, whether you and I are here, Ed, that the world will figure itself out too. It may take a while, but I choose to look at what is good and great in the world and good and great in people. And as I said earlier, the ones that are maybe acting less than congenial, they probably need the biggest hug. So trust would be my short answer to that.
I like that
Mm,
because what I see is I see people's response, not necessarily to me, but a response to what they're going through, and I see them
mhm,
becoming energized to make changes or to feel
mhm,
positive, or they feel like a number of people coming out of COVID said, have said to me that, I realized I needed to spend more time working on my relationships with people and with my
mm,
family. And
mhm.
that's when I see people saying things like that, that gives me hope. Because if
Yeah.
they can build and fix their relationships or make their relationships better, then they'll
Hmm.
find a way to do the things that they need to do that, we've talked about as leadership or
Yeah.
making a difference and being a person of impact.
Yeah. Agreed. If things continue to be easy, where is the growth?
Very good.
Hmm.
One of my guests, I've had this in the back of my mind all for the last half hour or so. One of my former guests who was on the show probably 2.5 years ago came on and she says, "Oh, you wouldn't believe what I heard today." So what was that? She says, "You know how people feel like they're frauds? Oh, I'm just not good enough. I'm a real fraud."
Right.
And she said, "What I heard was a coach say." If you don't feel like a fraud, then you're not trying hard enough.
Yes, I've
And
heard that in a similar way, and I do agree. Yeah.
I
And
love that. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah, yeah. Can I add something to that?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
good
of course.
resource.
Of course.
So, Adam Grant wrote Think Again,
Hmm.
and he talks a little bit about imposter syndrome and the value of it. And that again, it's like flipping that perspective because that's another thing that people bring to coaching is like, oh, I've got imposter syndrome. But if, if you then you're not, you keep trying. Like that's what keeps motivating people and not to the degree that it will keep you up at night, but we all have varying degrees of it. It's
Yeah.
like, could we have done this differently? Could we have done it better? Sure. Could it have been worse? Absolutely. But it is what it is you and I share space. And I love Paul Hari's um his his theories of belonging. Like right now it's you and me and that's it. And it's a beautiful thing. And what we did, we did. And the end. Right?
And we'll do it better next time.
Or not, or
Or not.
differently. Yeah.
But we get to try. We get to
We
try.
do, and we can keep trying as many times as it takes.
Yeah.
Just, if we could talk to the Wright brothers
Yes.
or Alexander Graham Bell or Colonel Saunders, I mean, any of those people, they were relentless at what they were trying to do. And
Right.
without them, where might we be? Right? So we just need to keep trying, Ed.
Well, I thank you for reaching out to me and wanting to have a conversation. I
Mm,
wish you well in the work that you do. I think your clients are very blessed to have you as their coach.
mm.
Um, you have a lovely way of being both light and serious at the same time, which is
Oh, that's
which
a
is
thinker.
which is which is quite difficult. It's
Mm,
there's a soberness to it, but there's
hmm.
also this kind of lightness and joy of this is going to be good. I mean, it's a positive thing,
Hmm.
and I just want to appreciate you for sharing that with us today.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I hope it's been a good time for you too.
It sure has, Ed. And I told you we'd have fun. And I'd also like to add, my life has now become different slash better. Now that I have met you, I can follow you, listen to more of your podcasts. And it's truly a privilege to be invited into your space. Um, and
Thank you,
I really can't thank you enough. It's really been an absolute pleasure and an honor. So thank you so much for your time.
and thank you very much, Gail. And folks, I hope that you take away from this that one, you can do things that you didn't imagine yourself doing, but also know that if you do it, then you can find something positive in your life that you
Hmm.
didn't know that was there. And
Oh
if you need
yeah.
a coach, where are you? Right over here. Right over
Where,
here.
yeah, where am
Yeah.
I? Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
on this other
actually,
side.
I
There we
have a
go.
mug. I'm so
Sorry.
excited. I got my glasses on my mug
I
and
like your glasses
yeah,
better.
thank you. And
But
it's blind
there's a
spots
coach for
coaching.
you.
That's it. Yeah. Thank
You
you
need a
so
coach.
much, Ed. Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you, Gail.
Loved it.
Send me stuff for the show notes and send me a picture and we'll this will show up sometime in November.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. And thanks again. You have an
Thank you.
amazing day.
And
All
we'll
right.
see you all.
Take care. Bye,
Bye bye.
everyone.